All right. Yep. We're up.
Oh yeah, we are. I forgot how this thing works.
I'm just making sure that I do it on this end here. Good afternoon, everyone. Okay, here we go. Here we go, yo. I just have to do my little part in terms of sharing it to my social media.
Let me
Okay,
show you my
yes.
story.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back, Wade.
Thank you for welcoming me back. After all, we all cut me off the last time.
Listen, we're not gonna get into what happened in terms of your departure, sudden departure. All right,
I
or
had to get my contract situation worked out. You, you know,
oh no, no, we understand.
I know
Keisha
that.
and
I
I
know
have been
that.
holding it down, folks. So good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Dollars and Cents. All right, Mr. Wade here always wants to take over whenever we're back. If you're watching us, thanks for watching. Thanks for being a follower and a supporter. Remember, we are on Facebook and YouTube and Facebook. Um, Keisha is always here talking to us from RTS Mortgage Financial Road to
Oh,
Success. Yay!
what you
Right?
got? It. You see, I had to
Listen,
leave in order for you to get it right. Praise.
no, you laughed, and I've said I got him this time. I got him this time. How's everything, Keish? Oh, she froze. You froze. You're on mute.
There we go. Can you hear me now? Sorry about that. Yes, everything
Yeah.
is good. Everything's good. Definitely always a pleasure for us to be on this platform and bring some knowledge and opportunity to those in our community. That's what we're here for, right?
Yes,
Indeed.
ma'am. Yes,
Yes,
ma'am. And of
indeed.
course, shout outs to you for your recent success. Please repeat that again. You passed. I don't want to
Oh,
misquote it.
yeah. So I passed that brokerage exam. So I'm officially a broker now. So, life, as I
Go,
said,
girl.
that hashtag that I've been saying, that little phrase that I've coined, coming out of COVID ahead and not behind.
That's right.
We understand that, of course, there are some people that are struggling. We understand that, we do have those unfortunate situations, but there's also opportunity, and I want for us to be able to take advantage of that.
Mhm.
Don't squander away. There has been some time that's been created, unfortunately, within this pandemic, but let's use it wisely and let's come out of COVID ahead and not behind.
All right. Thank you very much for that. And I was just about to go to Wade, and he goes on blind in terms of his camera. Are you coming back, sir? We have a special guest today, Miss Billie-Jane Bolton. Is your last name Rojo?
Yes, I am so sorry. That's right. I know many names. Billie
Okay,
Jane Bolton-Rojo.
Rojo.
Yes.
Okay, all right. I just want to, I didn't want to be a gringo and mess up your last Rojo.
Rojo.
You know how we are. You know, so I'm glad I got that right.
You did.
So thank you for coming on. I'm gonna read your bio in a second, right? But I wanted to hear from this gentleman here. But it's okay. You know what? Let me go to your bio, cue you up, and then we're gonna talk a little bit about what's going on with the real estate market up there, Keisha. Now,
Mhm.
granted, I'm in Florida, so there are lots of things happening here, but there are some things that recently took place there. Based on some of the articles I read, they said they're cooling the market. I don't know what that means. I'm glad that you guys are here to help me understand that, right?
Mhm.
But before I do that, I am going to read the bio for our guest. Billie-Jane Bolton-Rojo, a mom of three children, has a passion to equip children to develop their gifts, talents fully and to live out their purpose boldly. As owner of uh, PCAL or PCAL Financial Group, Billie Jane, Billie Jane uses financial services to support parents in eliminating financial barriers that stagnate children's dreams. I love that line. Love that line. She helps families save their children's education with RESPs and explore creative strategies to fill the gap, positioning their children to hone their gifts debt free. I just love it. Billie Jane also challenges parents to expand their perspective beyond their own children, but multi generationally, using personal insurance to protect and build their legacies. All right, I'm glad I didn't stumble or fumble too much there. So when I do that, my fellow hosts have given me a warm time, but I got the thumbs up from our guests, so I guess
We'll get
we're
you
good.
after.
Well, once we sign off, okay.
No,
Uh,
you did awesome.
yes, ma'am. Welcome to you.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I am so honored. My passion, as you had read, is actually really the kids at first and foremost. And then I've built out the services that I've offered. But I have finally come to a place where I can be unapologetic in who I want to serve.
Hmm.
And I really want to serve our community. I want our community to be able to step out. I mean, we are an amazing and powerful people. And I want our kids to step out fully embracing who they are and not have all of those limitations and the barriers that we often face. And for kids, where's that biggest step that they're taking? It's pursuing post-secondary. Now, we as a community are very good about getting post-secondary. In fact, we lead in that area, which is great. But
Hmm.
so many of us have to step into that carrying the weight of debt with us. And so, to be able to allow kids to step into their greatness, as I mentioned, and, be totally unencumbered by the weight of debt, but to step into whatever their purpose is. And I'm not, I come from a culture, my family is from Ghana. So I come from a culture where, you need to have initials after the name. I mean, you need to be a doctor or a lawyer, before you're considered validated. Unfortunately, that's just how it is. And my thing is, we've been given so many gifts. Our kids have been given so many amazing gifts, and all of them are from God. All of them have value. So how
Hmm.
can they step out in those gifts boldly and have a real belief that they can do whatever it is that they want with it, because it was given to them for a purpose, and that purpose is beyond them. It's for us all. So a lot of kids, and not just kids, a lot of us play small because we don't think we can step out in whatever that gifting is. And unfortunately, debt trains kids when they're young. They start thinking small even before they've embarked on that post-secondary education, because they just don't think the possibilities out there. So that's one of the big things that I'm really passionate about, is let's just eliminate those barriers and help kids and embark on that big first journey in pursuing post-secondary and dream, because they're not concerned about any financial barriers. And then let's get even deeper and let's talk multi-generational strategies. And but for me, education, honestly, for me, is the first thing when it comes to the next generation and equipping them to be successful. So how can we do that, and how can we use financial services to do that? And as I said, I consider myself more of a strategist in finding multiple solutions to help families and kids make those dreams come through as debt-free as possible.
All right, that's a great cue up.
Definitely. Love it.
Just before we jump into all the things that you said there,
Hmm.
real shortly, as I said, something recently happened, Keisha Wade, in terms of even Billy. You can jump into this one too.
Yeah.
The real estate market is just crazy over there right now. But I heard that there are some moves in the news. Wade
So,
said, though, I shouldn't believe everything I heard. So you guys
well,
help me to understand what's going
well,
on
I mean,
there.
something definitely did happen, but it's nothing new, right?
Hmm.
It's the stress
Yes.
test, which we know was first implemented. I believe it was 2017 or 2018 when it first came into play.
Hmm.
And so when it did, of course, they named it quite well, because it did put a lot of people under stress. First time home buyers, yes, of course, single income families. And, it really pushed a lot of people out of the market. So, essentially what it is, it came in already. And at the beginning of COVID, it started to kind of do a downward climb, or sorry, go down. And then it hit 4.79, kind of sat there for a little bit. So that's where we've been for a little bit now. As of June the 1st, it went back up to 5.25. So, you earned a little bit more buying power based on where it was initially. Maybe $4,000 more of a home. right?
Mhm.
But since it's gone back up, it's shaved off that buying power back again, right? So it's been out there, or the stress test is coming in, but once again, it's not new. It's been there before, right? The intention, of course, was to some intention was to cool off the market a bit. We know that hasn't completely happened, right? Based on the prices going up, some of the bidding wars that's been happening. Some of the bidding wars have cooled off a little bit. It's not as aggressive as before. It still does exist, but not as much, where you have 30 people bidding on one property. So it's cooled off a bit. But with regards to the stress test, of course, it's something that has been in place before. So essentially, what the government is doing is, they want to put a bit of a cushion, right? So you're being qualified at a rate that you're not going to pay, right? So you're being qualified at a mortgage that you're not going to pay. So what they want to know is that if if interest rates were to get to that high, as in 5.25, even though you're paying at a, let's say, contract rate of, let's say, 2.09, can you afford a mortgage amount under that 5.25 interest rate? So that's what they want to know. So, based on what happened in the US, I believe it was 2008, where there was a type of mortgage, interest rate that was first implemented. And through that course, it increased. And there was nothing put in place to kind of, make sure that, the homeowners would not be affected, right? When those rates start to go up, they couldn't afford the home anymore. So this is what the government is trying to prevent. And a lot will say, what happened in the US will not happen here. And because we're a little bit more regulated, right? In terms of that housing crash that went on in the U.S. And so I don't ever want to say impossible, but based on these things that the government has put into place to kind of minimize what happened in the U.S. from happening over here, right? Because people are literally walking away from their home. Right, I heard people leaving cars in the driveways in Florida.
Yep.
Take it. Here's a house. Here's a car. Right. So, so this stress test is put in place merely, of course, I don't see where it's cooling off the market too much, but in terms of making sure when it's time for you to renew in the next 5 years, and let's say the economy, we're hoping that it recovers, and say your rates go up, you're buying a property of, let's say, 800,000, maybe your mortgage is around 700,000, just throwing numbers out there, and you initially went in at, let's say, 1.89, you're renewing now in the next 5 years at, who knows, maybe 3 point something, maybe 4. Can you afford that mortgage now at that rate? So that is what the stress test is. It's not new, but these are some of the things that the government has put into place, hopefully to safeguard, make sure that people are not going to be losing their home time, come time for renewing, right?
Yeah, I guess what government is also doing, they're preventing them having to have to bail out folks come at that time.
Okay.
So, and one of the things, what it hasn't cooled the market, what it has done is that it has taken some people out of the market. Which
I was about to, that's what I was, for regular, I always talk about regular folks. I know for those who have the money and they have the means, all of this stuff don't mean much. But what about individuals who are trying to get a come up in life?
Yes.
Usually individuals that look like us, right? So it's more difficult now. Is that what you all are saying?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it becomes a little more.
It's already difficult, but
because it's also based on income, right?
Okay.
It's also based on income, and so that's why when you get a good start with an RESP, and your parents talking generational, you get that education, you get set up for the future, so you can have that coin that will enable you to afford. Doesn't matter what stress test they put on, you can still be in the market. And so that's why our guest today is very important in terms of helping us to get our children set up for the future. So stress test or no stress test, they will be well situated for the future.
All right, that's a good segue. So heading back,
it wasn't meant to be a segue.
he has these what was it, passive aggressive methods, Billy. I mean, transitioning us, but it's okay. We'll take it. We'll take it. Nice toss up, sir. Nice toss up. So before you you go into all the things that you're doing and how you continue to tell us about all the things that you opened up with. Give us a little bit about your background. We heard about Ghana. Did I hear Ghana?
That's right. That's
Tell us,
right.
you're born there, you grew up in Canada,
No,
you're educated
no.
where,
Yes. No,
tell
no,
us
I
a little
love it. I'd love to
bit.
share. I'd love to share. So actually, I was born in England. I say I was practically born in Canada. I came here when I
Okay.
was about 3.
All right.
Yeah,
But
you're born in Canada.
and I went
You can't
back.
claim, you can't claim England.
Pardon?
Go
Can't
ahead.
claim England.
You can't
Yeah.
claim England.
Well, I was born there, so I got the passport, and I managed to get it for my kids. I was like, let me get these kids their passport. So yeah, no, but seriously, I came here very young. I actually was in Ghana for a short period of time, let's say about up to 18 months, because
Okay.
it was very difficult for my parents as they were making the transition here with the little one. So but yeah, I came here. I've pretty much been raised here, so it was just us nuclear family here in Canada. And which actually kind of leads a bit into my story, is that my dad, it was not easy, as I'm sure it was for so many immigrating families, parents, coming to Canada in the time, especially the Trudeau government, when the doors were opened. And my dad struggled quite a bit when he came to Canada, I think. And he was definitely one who was sort of touted for tremendous success back home. He was multi-talented in sports and in music, and and very academically inclined as well. He struggled when he came here. His name was Billy Bolton, so you don't tell much from his name, and he made sure to speak. He would get his enunciation just right, listening to his teachers, who of course through a British system, so really took note of how to speak. So when you would speak to him, you wouldn't know where he was from. But he found that when he went into interviews, suddenly he was overqualified and things like that. So it was a struggle for him. And I think that caused him to want to position us better. So it was a decision not to teach us the language. He thought that probably if, with us here, if we could speak like everyone else, we would have more access to opportunity and stuff. So it was a decision that they didn't teach us the language, which was quite challenging, because my grandmother, who is the inspiration for me embarking on this journey, is, she was born in the, oh my goodness, she passed at 103. So she was born in the 1900s, right? And she was not very formally educated. She was in the market selling her wares with her auntie, when she was 9 years of age, and, went and developed from there. But she had incredible business savvy, but did not have strong English, since she didn't have the formal education. So we had language barrier. And within our culture, they say that the wealth of the family is in the number of girls. So she was so excited because she had 10 kids, 3 girls, and one of her girls had girls, and I was the eldest girl. But we had language barrier. So there was so much I know she wanted to teach. And she was an incredible businesswoman. She had, stores, commercial property, residential property. She bought a farm. She was incredible, the kind of things that she did. And I know she wanted to share that because she was a mom, she was a wife, all of that, and wanted to share all that wisdom. But it always had to be done through translation. So it wasn't until she actually passed that I got to find out about her fully, about her life, because they put this beautiful book together. And that's when I got to find out more about her. And I was just like, wow, look at the legacy this woman has left, and how am I living up to that legacy? And that's what birthed the idea of legacy thinking. How am I living up to that legacy? How am I equipping my kids to step out in their legacy? I'm working that. I don't even call it 9 to 5. I like to call it 7 to 7, because I was working all the time, had very little left when I would come home to the kids. So how am I positioning them to continue in their greatness, kind of thing? And so that was the beginning of the thinking that I needed to make a change. And, I used to work in, one of Canada's largest banks, and, had a good job there, but had the opportunity to start to look differently at the future and what I wanted to do. And so the opportunity came that I can embark on a whole new journey. And as I try to figure out what it is that I want to do, I want to continue this legacy. And I started with education savings, because I'm like, I get this. I'm in the same journey. I've got 3 kids. I'm saving for their education. So I know what the parents are going through. It seemed a little small, but I love the expertise in that area. And that's where my whole journey started. But yeah, I'm very passionate about staying involved with the Ghanaian community. My parents said it was very nuclear, very much just us. But I've been stepping out a lot more and doing things within the Ghanaian Canadian, Association of Ontario. So the community here in Ontario, and sharing, my own knowledge, and just really passionate about helping, in particular, our community to step out and dismantle some of the barriers that, there are lots that we cannot do on our own, but those that we do have control of, and that's in the area of finance, let's do what we can. And so if I can just equip people by just raising their knowledge and their awareness about opportunities, I'm all for it. So again, I really am grateful and honored to be on this platform to share some information with you guys.
Definitely.
And I like what you said about legacies and leaving a legacy thinking, because for so many of us, we don't really think about leaving a legacy. We're just thinking about, let's get that good job, let's get our kids through
pay
school,
those bills, right?
Pay
Take
those
care of it
bills.
right now, right?
You just need somewhere. But when you talk about leaving a legacy, that means you are thinking beyond here and now, right? You're thinking futuristically,
yes.
Right? And so I like the concept of legacy thinking.
We have to be thinking multi-generationally, and because other communities do. They've planned out 30 years out, 50 years out. We need to start to shift, but I understand why. Like, I come from a place of compassion, because we as a community worldwide, whether on the continent, the diaspora, have been so damaged by the events of the last few centuries. And as a result, it's given us a lot of uncertainty about tomorrow. Man, we got to just focus on surviving today. How can I be thinking about, my kids growing up? I don't even know if they'll grow up. You know what I mean? So I understand. So it's coming from a place of compassion about where we're coming from, but we can make that shift. We can make that shift, but we have to be patient. When you're thinking legacy, when you're thinking multi-generational, you have to be patient, because all of those efforts that you're doing, it takes time for it to grow. And you may not even see the fruit of all of your labor, but to be patient and diligent and have faith that those decisions you are making now will bear fruit, then that is huge. But I recognize it is a huge mind shift change, a mindset shift for us. Right? It is, right? So that's the thing. So, but the key is patience in all of those decisions. And when we make decisions, pause for a moment and just think, what is that long-term impact of this decision? Like, when you look at your kids, and I was challenged with this, especially I was looking at my oldest daughters, that when I look at her, I'm not just looking at her, I'm actually looking through her generations down. All of my grandchildren are here right now.
Right.
As I look at her, all of my grandchildren are there right now. So the decisions that I'm making now, how are they going to benefit not only her, but my grandchildren? So even when I think about how I talk to her, how am I equipping her to be the mother she needs to be to raise the grandchildren that I want, to be able to make some real shifts in, for generations to come? So really it challenges all of us to think a little bit differently. So
PCAL Financial Group. Talk to us about some of yes.
Partnership in creating a legacy.
Okay, partnership.
That's what it's. Yeah.
All
so
right.
PCAL, partnership in creating a legacy, because I am your partner, right? I am your guide. I don't make decisions for you, but I'm here to educate and to guide you in the decisions that you make, for your family, because everyone's situation is different and what's important to them is different and what their needs are different. But just be equipped with the knowledge. So education is always key, first and foremost. Educate people so that they can make the right decisions for them that they can be comfortable with. And so I partner with you, and it's a journey. So I talk a lot about journey. When we're talking multi-generational, it's a journey. Our own lifespan is a journey, right? So I do talk a lot about this being a journey. And
how long have you been doing? You said you're the owner. Like, is this the main thing that you do, or is this?
So basically, I started off my journey first, in education savings, specifically our ESP. So there's one company that I really endorse. Okay, so that's knowledge first. But then I became insurance licensed almost 3 years ago, and so then started. I created my brand, right? PCAL Financial Group, and so so just really excited to offer my services. At the time too, though, when I first started to branch out in some work that I did a little bit of grant writing as well, because I actually came from an engineering background. So with that skill set, I have very strong writing skills. And so I wanted to leverage, I'm all about, let's get ours, man. So let's get grant money for our kids. Let's get some companies some grant money. So I did a little bit of that work, but it's very time consuming. And I really just wanted to focus on, on my families and even the business owners with children. I really wanted to focus in that area. So the main service offerings are education, savings, and insurance strategies. And I'm always throwing out some creative ways, like, how can we use insurance multi-generationally? So yeah.
So with regards to the RESP, do you find, is it a challenge, with regards to advocating for this within our culture? I'm someone who I did do that, for my son, and I know definitely can be very beneficial. A wise man actually once told me that, every time he would go to the bank, he would actually kind of max out on the RESP. And when the banker told him, like, why are you putting all this money, like you're focusing it all on there? And he turned around and he said to him, when my children come to me and say, Dad, I want to be a doctor, where am I going to find that money? Where am I going to find it? So we don't know what they're going to want to be. So it's best that we start to position so that the funds are there to our access. Yeah. So, I mean, what challenges do you find within our community? Are you getting a little bit more response as time progresses in terms of saving for their future?
Right. No, that's a really good point. And I love the sort of the story or the testimony that you shared about the gentleman at the bank. Within our community, I find that I have to do quite a bit of educating, because not everyone embraces the idea of doing it. And, honestly, it's been a challenge that way. I'm like, I feel like I want this more for people than they want it for themselves. I honestly feel that because, we just don't always prioritize the things that we don't see the fruit for right away. But as you mentioned, the whole idea is position our kids to step out, and whoever they are, we don't want them to have to quell any dream. You don't want your child who wants to be a doctor or a lawyer to be like, oh, sorry, don't have funds to support that. But the thing that I want people to feel, because I know what is challenges, people are concerned, they've got so much money and so much demand on their wallets, right? How do you allocate the appropriate funds? It's hard. I always want families to understand, first of all, if you can fund as much as you can in the beginning years, I encourage you to do that, just simply because we don't know tomorrow. So if you can do as much as you can when you've got the means, do it. It's something I'm grateful that I did for my own journey with my daughter. It's been a huge shift, becoming self-employed. And, I went from, making, very comfortable income, dual income household, to now, having that income slash significantly as I'm building my career. But thank goodness during those early years when I was more in a comfortable income level, I had really funded my daughter's education significantly, which gave me the grace when I needed to pull back a bit, when we had to make some, significant, spending decisions as the income changed. We were able to do that. We had some grace, So I do like to encourage families, if they can do as much as they can in the early years, do it. It positions you well. But if you can't, I don't want any family to feel discouraged. Start where you are. Even if it is $25 a month, because the key is the differences your children are going to make in the decisions that they make for themselves. Just knowing that there is some money often is the shift on whether a child would pursue a dream or not. It almost doesn't matter how much it is. Right. If there is money, a child would be like, wow, I've got some money. I can do this. And guess what? They the wheels will start to go on how they can make that happen. So then they can pursue other avenues to fill the gap, which is something I love to stress to families and to youth. let's use those other opportunities to fill the gap. This is not the end all be all. So I don't want families to be discouraged that, oh, I can't do this because I can't save $200 a month. Start where you are and you can continue to build from there. But you did raise a good point, Keisha, about like in terms of maxing out the grants, because a lot of people don't really understand how the grant programs work. A family can get up to $9,200 in government grants for their children. One of them I love, it's a $2,000 Canada Learning Bond. And I like to call this free gift money because you don't even need to save. However, you do need to qualify based on income. It's not for everyone. The family offers this program for more modest income families. Okay. So I always encourage them, start from there. It's a little something. Just open it. Lock the money in your kids' accounts. They won't take it away if your income increases. So take advantage of this money. It is none of the money that you get from the government that they give it to you all at once. It's always spread out in time. They drip it over time. They want you to be consistent in the journey. So even with this free $2,000, it's over time. It takes about 15 years to get all of it. Okay. But they'll start off with $500 and they top it up $100 a year to a total of $2,000. And for you families, parents who have older kids and you didn't know about this and you think, oh, now it's too late for me. No, this program is retroactive. I've helped 12-year-olds and $1,700 goes into the RESP one time. So that's the first program, the CLB. Take advantage of that. I don't care what you're like, as long as your income is below 48, even if you cannot save, at least get that money. And then keep in mind the opportunity to start to save, because once you start saving, you can start to capture top-up grant. And this is the additional $7,200, which again takes about 15 years to get all of it. The government will give $500 a year, and they actually earmark this for a child every year from once they are either born here or they become a resident in Canada for tax purposes. They start to allocate $500 each year for the child. And in order to get it, you need to put in $2,500. Okay. So if you put in $2,500, the government will match it 20%, which is $500. So when families are like, well, what does that look like? Because we don't think annually, monthly cash flow, $209 a month helps a family to get that, right? And so the gentleman that you're talking about at the bank, he probably was trying to do this $209 a month so he can get that $500 each year so that it'll accumulate to $7,200 by the time the child is 15. What I love about the RESP is that, you get this money and you can use it. Your child can use it for anything. I mean, Keisha, you mentioned a doctor, but let's be real. Not everyone is designed to be a doctor. And thank goodness, because our world would not look so great if everyone was a doctor. We need variety.
Right. I would have
right? Yeah, we need everything, right? And like, Wade, like you're telling us about this amazing gentleman who did your deck. Like if he didn't pursue his gift, you would not be out there enjoying the beautiful outdoors.
He'd be doing it himself.
Feeling like I'm the third.
He'd be doing it himself, learning along the way. So our kids are given so many different gifts. And what's great about the RESP, it can be used for a variety of studies. I mean, we think university, right? But it's not just for university. It can be used for university. It can be used for college. It can be used for trade schools and technical schools. It could be used for distance learning or correspondence learning, and for people who are in like Quebec, they've got a program called CEGIP, which is just before university. You could use it even for that, even part-time. So lots of opportunities. My thing is, let our kids step out in their gift. Let's not play small, because you'd be surprised like what kids can do. The artist, because he's got some money, maybe he'll come out and pursue his art and open up an art gallery. Why not? Mm-hmm. Right? So just, let's embrace our kids' varying talents and let's just position them to be able to step out in that and take advantage of the RESPs. Don't leave this money on the table. I'm like, don't leave this $500. That's actually your money you're getting back. So try to claim as much of it as you can. That's reasonable within your resources so you can put your head down at night and sleep easy, but feel awesome about what you're doing, but not worried about how you're going to keep the lights on, right? So, start where you are and you can build with time. But definitely, if you're eligible based on income, take advantage of the free resources, the free $2,000 that's there. Take advantage of that. I have so many families. They start there. And then I keep putting the bug in their ear and they're like, okay, I've got some money I can put in. I'm like, yay! right?
You're the cheerleader.
That's it. No, I listen, because I'm like, I just imagine the kids and who they will become, and just the dreams and just, just not having those barriers. They've got enough to deal with. Let's eliminate that one,
Yeah.
So, and which is so great.
We're throwing terms around RESPs and so on.
Yes.
What's that?
Okay, good. Let's
give us.
I'm glad.
Rewind.
Okay, now that Wade said it, right?
Like everyone knows what I'm talking about.
Yeah. Before you answer that too, also, you also mentioned that the little practical piece for individuals who might not be able to start at a certain level, right? Yeah. Just add that to it too, just because I think that's very encouraging to individuals.
Basics. What's that? What's an RESP?
What is that? Okay. So RESP is Registered Education Savings Plan, RESP, and it is only for education, because people are always like, so can I use it for something else? No. It is a program that the government put in place to really help parents to save for their children's education, because a lot of times the money falls, the burden then falls on the government, with kids getting a lot of OSAP. And there was a time when there was a huge brain drain where people were, going south of the border to get their education, and they get all this OSAP to help them to do that, and they never come back. So the government wants to really encourage. Case in point, right? Yeah. So the government really created this program, really encouraged families to start planning ahead, start saving for their children's education, and they'll support them. So the Registered Education Savings Plan, specifically for education. And the program I was talking about, where you can start, like, even if you don't have the resources right now, right? It's called the Canada Learning Bond. You'll hear people say CLB. And that's the program where you do need to qualify based on income. If your income is below about $48,000, let's just say after taxes, you would be qualified. And so then you can get that. And companies don't establish that, the government. So there's a form that's completed. The government checks based on your tax information. So families, you need to file your income tax return. Okay. Because we've got people who have not filed their income tax returns yet. They're not getting, you need to, like, if you're getting a Canada Child Benefit, the CCB, then you will probably get this. But if you're not getting your return and you're not getting your CCB because you did not file your return, you will not be qualified for this grant. Right. So that's one thing. Okay.
Or you have to touch upon your filing.
Yeah, file your taxes.
Don't fire shots, sir. Don't do that. Okay.
What are you talking about?
Okay. All right. We'll continue.
I've been on the phone with many a client where it's like, where is this money? And it's like, oh, we don't have, their last taxes filed, right? I'm like, oh, okay. So that's incentive, guys. That's incentive. Not only if you file your taxes, you can get CCB, which is the Canada Child Benefit. Do you know how, you can get that retroactively too? Like, if you haven't filed, do it, because you'll be surprised how much money you can get depending on your situation. But when we talk about the CCB, I just have to plant a seed here, because again, this is strategies when families are like, how can I make this happen? First, taking advantage of free money, CLB, if you qualify. 2, you're getting the CCB. Use that money. The CCB is the Canada Child Benefit, which is the money. It's like back in my day, it was baby bonus. I don't know if you
guys.
That's what it was.
Baby bonus.
Yeah, that's what's up. Baby bonus.
Right?
Now you're practical. Now you're practical.
That was the name.
So the Canada Child Benefit is money that the government gives to parents to help them with, raising their children. And they tier this program based on income, based on the number of children. But use this money. It's government money. Guess what? You put in the RESP, it'll get you grant, which is more government money. It's going to grow without being taxed, because the beautiful thing about the RESP is that this is after-tax savings kind of thing. So you put in after-tax dollars, but as it grows, it's not being taxed. So it behaves like a TFSA, but it's got the bonus of grant. It's on, it actually was before the TFSA, but similar idea, where you save after-tax dollars and it's growing without being taxed, but you get the added benefit of grants. So use the CCB. Put it in there. I encourage families, if I can get them before they've had their baby, then I can encourage them to close their eyes to it. Pretend it's not coming in. Get comfortable with your budget as it is. Once you've incorporated it into your budget, it's so hard to peel it out. So if you can, for any young parents who are expecting, who, you know, you didn't even know about the CCB, know that this money will be coming to you based on income. Okay. Families with very high income may not be qualified, but for the average Canadian, you do get some of this money. So before you integrate it into your budget, close your eyes to some of it and take that government money. Let the government fully fund this. You take that government money, the government's going to top it up with more grants. It's going to grow without being taxed. And then what happens is that all of the money, like the after-tax savings you squirreled away, it goes to you when your child goes to school, and everything else, the grant and the growth, that goes to your child who's at a low tax bracket with very limited, requirement for tax, like tax dollars, right? So they're in a low tax bracket, so they don't have hardly any of the kids, that I've worked with have to pay any taxes if they're full-time students. Of course, if they're working, that's a whole other thing. But the idea is that the way they've designed it is that it can grow without being taxed, and then the growth goes to the kids with the grant taxed in their hands, but because their income is so low, it's essentially not taxed. So that's a huge thing. The CCB is one thing that I really, really encourage families to take advantage of, because you're really essentially allowing the government to fully fund your child's education. That's a great thing.
What would you say to those who, I've heard stories where, individuals say, oh, when I'm ready to get my money, I can't get my money, or a part of my money, I can't get all of my money. Have you heard those, type of feedback? And what would you say to someone right now who's listening, who's heard that, and maybe it's not the full story and don't understand exactly why someone's saying that. And then that alone discourages someone from actually starting to begin with.
Absolutely. Let's dispel some of the myths. First of all, let's talk the way the RESP works, okay? It's designed for you to save, remember, as I said, for education. So the government wants families to be invested for the long haul. They want you to be, doing your part until your child is 17. So I say this for families who will start an RESP and then cancel before their child is 17. There are implications, okay? And much of those implications are government implications. Any grants that have been earned on your savings, if you take that money out, those grants go back and you can never get them back. Even if you're like, oh, I just need to take my money out for a period of time and then I'm going to catch up again in the future, you will never get that grant money back. You will start from what's left, okay? So that's one thing as well. Interest, the growth in the plan. Again, it's designed for when our kids go to school. So you will not be able to tap into that money before your children are 21, or at least the plan's been open for 10 years. So that's the other thing. So I talked about the principal part, which is your own take home. You take it out, you lose grant attached to it. Interest, you don't have access to it. If you fully close the account, you may not get any of that interest. If you leave it, I encourage my families at least leave a little something in there, leave it open, because then you can tap into it, which is something that a lot of people think is an issue. What if my child doesn't pursue schooling? If your child does not pursue schooling, there are options. You can transfer to other children. Depending on the type of RESP you've chosen, depends on how much flexibility you have. Something like an individual RESP, you can transfer to any child, but grants only follow siblings. But everything else can be accessible to anyone, even yourself, if you wanted to use it for yourself to go to school, okay? Something like a family RESP, where you may find that type of a plan, let's say at a bank, only children within the family have access. So you will have a bit less flexibility on who can access those funds. So that's the thing to keep in mind. You get maximum flexibility if you have an individual plan. But if nobody goes to school, well, then the grants will go back, because grants are there as motivation, incentive for our kids to go to school. If no one goes to school, in fairness, think about it. Grants is really our tax dollars. Okay. So in fairness, you're not going to school. I want my money back. Okay. So the government will take the grant back, but they don't penalize you as parents. You stayed the journey, right? You've stayed the journey. So you can actually take all of the interest that's grown and you can throw it into your retirement savings. So it can continue to grow with tax deferred until you draw it out retirement. You can, of course, cash it out, but then you're cashing it out in your hands, and there are tax implications with that. Just like cashing out your RSP when you're still in the savings journey, there's tax implications. So there's a 20% tax there. So those are like some government rules around that. Okay. The thing is that honestly, it is such a win-win. Most families can find a solution. If one child is not going, they can give it to someone else. And if no one, listen, it's going to your future, to your retirement, or if you want to cash it out, you can take it. You'll just be prepared for the 20% on the interest part, not your money, the interest part. And then you get a tax receipt. Now, in terms of beyond that, different institutions have different rules, okay? For some, let's say, RESP companies where they're involved in group RESPs, where not only is your principal group together, which is like, mutual funds. It's mutual funds because everyone is putting in their $25 or $100, whatever, and it's all grouped together so that it has maximum purchasing power, and you've got money managers who take care of it, like a mutual fund. Same thing with the group RSP, same idea, that all of this money is pooled together to be invested. But the thing is, it's not just your money, your principal it's pooled, your interest is pooled. And so the interest is pooled for the kids who are going to school. So some companies, if your children do not go to school, that interest actually gets dispersed to the kids who do go to school. So that's intensely discouraging for families who are like, I don't want my money going to someone else. There is a time back in the day when people would do that. There was a time when farmers would pool resources for people to share. There was a time when people were okay with that because they're like, at least another child is benefiting. Those days are over. But that's the thing to keep in mind for group RESPs, is that you do have that restriction in that if your child does not pursue school at all, and there's no one you're giving it to and you're not taking it yourself, okay? Or if, the child does not take 4 years of schooling, because those plans are designed for 4 years of education, then there'd be money forfeited. Within those group RESP plans, they usually have different cost structures. Now, people are always so about fees. And I'm like, we need to get past this. Fees is how our economy run. There is a cost for doing business. This is how we all get paid for what we do. If we don't pay a fee, then somebody's not eating. And it's quite unfair for us to expect somebody to work for free. We want to get away from those days. So we do need to be prepared to pay a fee for service, okay? Now, the fee varies depending on the institution you go to. If you go to a bank and you get, let's say, a mutual fund, well, the fee you'll see in something called like an MER, which is a reduction of the return on your money, right? So, that adds up over time. But it's kind of coming out kind of like the back end, like per year. You see it like it's minimizing the full growth potential. Okay. But there is a cost, and there are calculators out there, even on the Ontario Securities Commission, that can help you convert that percent MER into a dollar figure, because you want to be able to compare apples to apples, right? So when you look at mutual funds, you've got this MER. Seg funds as well, you've got an MER. When you're looking on the bank side of things, people are like, I don't want any fees. I'm going to just do a GIC. Okay, that GIC is paying you like nothing. Like, you'd be lucky if you get 1%. But what is the bank doing with the money you put in the GIC? They took that money, lent it out many times over at a higher rate than they're paying you. Guess what? That's opportunity cost. That is lost opportunity for your money to grow to its maximum for your child. So that is a fee. That is a cost. Okay. The banks are always in the business of making money. So understand that. Now, with the group RESP business, the way those structures work, they were more of a hybrid where it's got a front end fee so that they can run the program. And then they do have a management fee as well. And it ranges. Okay. It could be like 0.5%, can go up to 1.3 or higher, depending on the product. So understand the fee structure. Okay. But I don't think there's anything wrong with it. Listen, I have to say, I went to school on a group RESP, which was rigid, okay? At the time, you could only do university or college. The rules have expanded significantly. I told you so many options your kids can pursue now, so don't worry about that. But back in my time, it was university or college if you wanted to get your money, and you better be in school for 4 years, okay? Yeah. And right? You have to be in school for 4 years, because I was hearing from my dad every day, you're going to school because I'm not losing my money. You're going to school because I'm not losing my money, okay? That was big incentive, all right? So, but that's what what I went to school on. And you know what? It worked. I got, now it didn't pay for all of my education. It was like that fitness trainer that is coming rain or shine to force you to go and get your work on, whether you're comfortable or not. Because guess what? Families make different decisions when their feet are held to the fire, right? And kids also will be more invested in that journey. So we were definitely invested in making it happen. So there was that. But when I had my daughter, like I was their easiest client. I called the company. I had a baby, send somebody. Like, who would not love that for their business? You know what I mean? So I did that. And this is another story that I'm going to share in terms of the power of this. But I went to an RESP company, but I also went to the bank then for my son. Now, when I went to the bank for my son, I was in a self-directed. So really, I am managing it myself. I choose the investments I want based on my risk profile. They'll put them all down and say, based on your risk profile, these are your choices. So I made my choices and I said it and I forgot it. Okay. I thought, it's on autopilot. It's good. You mentioned 2008, Keisha. My son was born in 2006. So 3 years later, we took a look at our statement in 2009, and it did not look very good, okay? Because weathering that 2008 was not good. We were like, you know what, cut our losses. We thought we were more aggressive with our risk profile. We realized pretty quickly we weren't. We didn't like the discomfort of losing the money nor losing our son's grants. So we cut our losses and we put it somewhere safe. And you know what? We went back to our ESP company because the difference there was that there was somebody who was holding us to account. There was someone there who was calling me. So there's something about, again, thinking about the costs and what are you getting for the cost? Because trust, no one called me from the bank to tell me your money's tanking. No one called me, but they still took their management expense ratio. Okay. So there was none of that. So that's something to think about. Explore all of the cost structures. But as you said, Keisha, understand some of the limitations or the restrictions, because we're some companies, if you leave the plan or your child does not do the full journey as expected, there could be some forfeiture of upfront fees. But not all companies are the same. So do your research. Make sure you understand that.
Right.
Make sure you understand that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, because for me personally, as I said, I did take that out for my older son. I can't remember honestly if it was a 1-year-old or 5 years old. I can't remember when I started it. But even for my two little guys right now, I do it for them as well. So it is. I do believe that it is important. And as parents, if we can set up our children for success, I put a quote in there actually. Do you see that quote? KP, and that's the
we may not be able to prepare for the future for our children, but we can at least prepare our children for the future.
Right. Yeah, and that's and that's a part of it, right? In putting those funds together. So that they have those options. And I like the fact that you mentioned that trades, because trades is sometimes we don't understand how I was more college university driven, right? But in truth, you have people that are coming out of trades and making quite a lot of money.
I was glad to hear that. I was here too.
Yeah, versus those who are coming out of university owning a lot of money, right? So it's great to know that you can use that towards trades as well, which is huge.
Wade's deck is a prime example there. I don't know how that keeps coming back in the conversation, but
it's important. We all want to be on your deck, Wade. But
you're all welcome.
But that is such a good point, though, Keisha. And there's one thing that I want to say about the RESP and beyond the finances, the numbers behind it. Yeah. What does that do to your child in terms of decisions that your child would make? Like, look at my example. My dad started RESP for me. I didn't know anything except that I had to go to school because he was going to lose money. That's the thing that I knew about that. Okay? So I went to school. I did what I was told. Okay. The RESP, listen, it didn't pay for all of my school. I insisted on flying the coop. I wanted to go away to school. All it paid was 25% of my education. Okay. But remember I said it causes different thinking in a child. So guess what? I wanted to make this happen. So I worked in my summers. I got OSAP. I looked for scholarships, multiple scholarships, bursaries, anything that I could find to squirrel the money away to make it happen. So that's one thing. It's going to challenge your kids to do that. But the other thing, when you start to think multi-generationally, what's the first thing I did when I had my child? I called.
You said it. Yep.
I need to set up an RESP. I don't know how this works. I know I got money, but I need to set this up. Yeah. My dad actually started a multi-generational chain and decision making. That it makes a difference generations down. So my daughter now, she's going to have more out of her RESP than we did.
Right.
And two, she's already aware of her RESP. And right now she's thinking, actually, because I planted the seed, is how can she not use her RESP for school? How can she use her RESP for something else, which is beautiful about the conversation about the stress test, because I'm already getting her thinking, maybe you can get some real estate. Maybe you can get some student housing and some students can come live with you and help pay for that mortgage. But start to be aware of that and start to talk about how can you tap into your, but those conversations would never have happened if my dad did not make that decision to get an RESP for me. Right. So that is the thing that in terms of the power beyond just like there's the education, Wade spoke about it, because now you get higher income potential. So what more opportunities can your children get now because you're at a higher income potential? But it's not that you have to become a doctor or a lawyer. The key is to step out in excellence, hone your gifts, step out in excellence and hone your gifts. And to do that, you need to get some type of education in your craft. Right. And that's where the education savings can help. And then, as I said, it changes the whole dialogue in the household for generations to come.
You have said a whole heap of stuff. We're almost at that 2:00 mark.
I'm sorry I talk so much.
No. It's just that you've taken some complex things, some things that we're sometimes embarrassed as a community to even ask about. Wade, even though Wade jokingly did what he said regarding RESP, these are some of the things that happens to us, and what is that? And you think everybody's talking about it. You don't want to ask to look foolish or anything like that, but you really, really went to the heart of the matter, the heart of the issue, in terms of helping us and understand, right?
Yeah.
So basically, in terms of your company, what individuals would touch base with you, and basically these are the things that you
how can they reach out to you?
Absolutely. I definitely work with families on their education savings. They can reach out to me. I'm like hesitant because literally right now I had to bring down, I've had some issues on my website. My website is www.pcalfinancialgroup.ca, but it had to be brought down for a short time. It's going to come back up, so don't worry. And you can reach out to me by email. And I'm Billie-Jane, like you see my name here on the caption. So Billie-Jane at pcalfinancialgroup.ca. And then of course you can reach out to me, I'm also on social media and stuff like that. So definitely.
Social media, as in you're on Instagram, you're on YouTube, you're on Facebook.
I'm mostly on Facebook. I am on Instagram, but I'm working on it. Keisha and I were having a conversation about it. I'm working on it. But you can find me mainly. Facebook is where you can find me. So
So I don't know if this conversation can really end, guys. I think we got to get Billie back on here. I don't know what her schedule is like.
And maybe on the next one, because she has a bigger portfolio, not just RESP, of course, insurance as well. We've had other individuals on here for that, and there's always room for more. There's different insights, and we want to once again, our community, we want to make sure to get that information out there. Quickly before we go and kind of set up that segue for our next, if it's the insurance, is this a myth? I've heard that in the past and maybe you know or you don't know, but I've heard in the past our culture actually was not allowed to get insurance. Have you heard that?
I
And so
have not heard that. Listen, my dad got insurance for me when I was 16. So, and that was, I'm not going to say how many decades ago that was,
Yeah, it's okay, girl.
That's all right.
but so I know, so I'm not aware of that.
and this was long ago, long
ago. Okay, well, listen. Do you know that it was insurance that started the wheels of slave abolition? It was insurance that started that. Where insurance actually came from is really the whole idea is people pooling their money together as a,
Okay, girl, you gotta come back. You gotta come back. You gotta come back.
Park that. Yeah, park that. Yeah. We are gonna have to come back. We're gonna bring you back.
We're attacking, but as far as I know, definitely. I just want to leave families with this.
Yeah.
Okay. Like that may have been something that happened in the past. I don't know. As of today, everyone can get it. However, there are some barriers that we need to be aware of, and it has to do with some of our lifestyle choices, okay, which are going to affect our insurability. All right. So things like our build. All right. We want to maintain a healthy build. So that's your height versus weight. Those things are going to affect your insurability. It's going to affect the premiums that a standard insurance company will charge. Now, there are companies that will give you insurance regardless, but expect to pay more premium for that. Okay. And we all have we've got finite wallet. So that's the one thing that I would just sort of say, there's that build lifestyle in terms of marijuana usage. All of these things, they can affect your insurability. So I only say this because let's be real with us as a community. We like to eat.
Dropping bombs right
let's be real. We like to eat a certain way. We want to eat a certain way. We may not have the same lifestyle choices. All of these things affect our insurability. And that is going to be a barrier in terms of getting the insurance that you want. Okay.
That's a whole show in itself.
Yeah, we'll
talk about that next time.
Yep.
We should open that up. So.
Yeah. We're going to go down there.
I wrote it down because I'm saying, no. We got to come back on it.
We're going to come back on it. That's 100%. Yes. So we want to take a moment, of course, to thank you for that wealth of information. Whether you're watching now, whether you're watching the recording, it is so important, once again, for us to set up our children. We're talking about legacy. We're talking about changing, the way things have been done in the past, right? Setting our children up for success. These are ways and avenues to do so. So I'm appealing to parents out there. If you want to find out more information, of course, Billie-Jane has just given you some of that information. You can reach out to her. You can reach out to any of us. We can definitely lead you to her. And also, you may even have someone in your in your circle that might offer this as well. So we encourage you, take that step to make a change and make things a little bit different for our children as we move and try to change the game here for our culture. Once again, we're bringing knowledge and opportunity to those in our community. Wade, take it away.
And trying to help you make sense of your dollars.
Perfect. I love it. And we are going to sign off on those 2 notes. Shout outs to Billie-Jane again. You will see her, folks. You will see her again. She's left us hanging.
Yeah, cliffhanger. Yeah.
All right. Until next Thursday, we'll be back at 1.
Yes.